So Vinu,
Yes.
tell us a little bit about your interest in blockchain.
So I am newcomer, sir, in blockchains.
Oh, okay.
I have very less knowledge about blockchains.
Mm.
I came here after following Nishal Sethi, co-founder
Okay.
of Vajirex.
Okay. So at least you know about cryptocurrencies then, right?
Yes, sir, little bit I know.
Okay,
My first
good.
investment is WRX,
Okay.
Vajirex exchanges.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's good. And how long ago? I mean, did you learn about cryptocurrencies?
Just 8 months back, sir.
Oh, okay. And are you in the like the IT field or what? What area do you work in?
So actually, I am student studying MBA.
Oh, okay.
I'm first year student MBA,
Is that like Master of
business administration
business administration? Okay.
in marketing.
Oh, okay. Great.
Yes.
All right. Well, I mean, this is just kind of like an opportunity to, get to know more of the community members, and then also to, give you guys a chance to ask any questions and get to know more about me as well, and so forth. So, um, you know, just fire away if you have any questions or anything like that. Do you have any specific questions, Vinu or Pratik?
Yeah, I have few. I've written
Okay,
down.
great.
In one of your videos on YouTube, you showed a demo of Android app for testnet.
Uh-huh.
That Android app is available still to check it out.
Yeah, actually, there was a few few apps that we showed. I think that was in one of our earlier quarterly events.
Yeah, right. Earlier.
Yeah, we were just trying to demo like a test net and just show that you can transfer coins. I don't think that's like online anymore. At least the backend network for that, the test net, is not online.
Okay.
Yeah.
I tried to find it on Play Store, but I couldn't.
Okay. Let me see if the Libertas is open. Yeah, I guess we do have like the Libertas network up, and even the source code for that is there.
Okay.
Let me show you this link here. I'll paste it in the chat.
Sure.
Hey Sabu, thanks for joining. How's it going? Did you get your mic working? No? Okay, you gotta work on that mic, man. Because you're gonna miss out on like being able to talk in these events. It's and we'll never know what you sound like. So yeah, I shared a link there.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Thanks.
Yeah, so that in some of our other demos more recently, well, maybe about a year and a half ago, we demonstrated like the Libertas network, and that basically allows people to send coins, but also be able to send messages and be able to register handles. So for example, like I can register like Omar as my handle on the network, and now my friends can just send me coins by, typing in Omar. They don't have to memorize my long address and so forth. So
Okay. So this Libertas coin is what message? This is stable coin or this is
It's not really designed to be a stable coin.
okay?
So it's designed to be used on the Libertas network. It's given to the validators. So Libertas is an application that we built to demonstrate what can be done with Shardus, right?
Right.
So, like end-to-end messaging right now, a lot of people use things like, WhatsApp or Telegram. I mean, they're not just end-to-end user-to-user messaging. They're more like, they're also group messaging as well. But Libertas initially was only going to support, one-to-one, person-to-person communication. Yeah, and the messages can be open, but you can also encrypt them, and you can even define your own encryption algorithms for how you want to encrypt it. And so on the Libertas network, one of the features that we were including is that you can set a payment amount for how much somebody needs to pay in order to send you a message if they're not a friend, right? So you can have a white list of people who are friends who don't need to pay you anything if they want to send you a message. But if somebody out of the blue just wants to spam you with the message, they'll actually need to pay some of these Libertas coins to, be able to send you that message. And once you read the message, you receive those coins. So that would kind of make it, possible for like even celebrities to put out like their, username and set a, kind of a higher number on how much they charge for receiving a message. And they're not going to get spammed, but, really big fans or people that really have a business proposition or something like that would still be able to communicate with them and actually get them a message, right? Get a message delivered to them.
Right.
Yeah, so that was, so these are some of the features that we're demonstrating in Libertas, and we still intend to launch Libertas eventually. Just right now, the focus of the team is on Shardeum and building a smart contract platform with Shardus. But yeah, if you go to the Shardus website, there's a roadmap there. You can see, we've been working on Shardus for quite a while. And, in that roadmap, there's also links to each of the quarterly presentation video that we did. And, you can go check those out and see some of the cool stuff that we demonstrated.
Yeah, I am going through it one by one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that'll give you a much deeper understanding of like some of the technology that's gone into Shardus, and then because Shardium is using that as its tech platform, Shardium is going to inherit a lot of these features.
Got it.
Yeah.
So my next question is, can our layer 1 or native coin can be a stable coin? Can we design like that? And what is the disadvantage and advantages of that?
Yeah, so if you want to design it as a stable coin, then you're going to have to play around with the supply, right? Or if you don't play around with the supply, then you have to back it with collateral that is stable, right? Like, I can create my own XYZ coin and say that, okay, this is backed with, US dollars. And but then I have to be able to redeem those, right? So if I say that, then I also have to say that, okay, if you send me XYZ and you say you want US dollars, I'll give you the US dollars. And so that gives, the market confidence that, okay, this coin should be treated as if it's worth $1. And, of course, I'll probably also allow, giving me dollars and getting these XYZ coins. So that's one way to do a stable coin. The other is by, like, if you're not going to actually allow people to convert back to some stable collateral, another way to do it is to use something that's not a stable coin, but use that as collateral, but you have to have over collateral, right? You have to over collateralize it. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with DAI.
Yeah.
So DAI is a stable coin created on the Ethereum network, and it's basically just done through some smart contracts. Anyone can go and deposit Ethereum, and you can borrow DAI against it. You can borrow up to, let's see, if you deposit, say, $1,500 of DAI or of Ethereum, then you can borrow up to 1,000 DAI. Like, you can mint, you're basically minting DAI against that collateral. I don't have to mint all of that. I can even just mint $10 or $100. But I also, but I have to make sure that I'm over collateralized by 150%. Now, if I fall below that 150% mark, like, let's say I borrowed, like, I put up 1,500 worth of Ethereum, and I had minted 1,000 DAI against that, but then the Ethereum price falls, and now my Ethereum collateral is only worth, like, let's say 1,200. Well, somebody can liquidate me and take my Ethereum, right? So that's how that works. So they can just, liquidate my collateral, take the 1,200 worth of Ethereum. To prevent that, I should return some of the DAI that I borrowed, or I need to put more Ethereum in as collateral. So that gives the market confidence that DAI is going to maintain its price, even though people that are holding DAI, they can't just come back and trade it against a stable currency. Now, the people who have minted DAI, they can go back to the contract and return that DAI and get their Ethereum back, right? So they're the only ones that can get back the original collateral that they had put in. But the rest of the people that are, just like, once I have the DAI, I can actually go and sell my DAI on a market, and I can sell it for Ethereum, right? So people who are bullish on Ethereum and think Ethereum is going to go up a lot, what they'll do is, like, deposit like $1,500 worth of DAI, of Ethereum, and withdraw, like, let's say, close to $1,000 worth of DAI, go sell that DAI and buy more Ethereum against it. And so now, and then with that Ethereum, they can deposit that too and borrow a little bit more DAI, and, you can keep repeating this, and they basically can get like almost 2x the amount of Ethereum than what they have, right? So if I had one Ethereum, I can actually, get like 2x Ethereum by doing this process. And I'm good as long as Ethereum goes up. But if Ethereum price goes down, then I'm risking getting collateralized. So that's the second way of creating a stable coin. And then the third way that you can create a stable coin is by having an elastic supply. And if you're familiar with like Amplefort, so Amplefort is a project where they have like this base Ample token that they put out, but then if the price of that token starts to go up in value, they basically say, okay, this is supposed to maintain a $1 price. And you can go check this on like CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko if you look up Amplefort.
Sure.
They can, so the premise is that, hey, this Amplefort that we just put out, and I think originally people had to, pay like $1 for each Amplefort that was minted, right? And so maybe they minted like $1 million worth of Amplefort. Maybe they paid for that with, like I might have been able to buy 1,000 Amplefort by, submitting or, depositing $1,000 worth of Ether, for example. And maybe, that I don't know exactly what they did with that, but it may have been burned or it may be held as collateral or something in a contract. But essentially, the premise is that if the price of Amplefort starts to go up, then we're gonna just automatically issue more Amplefort. Like everybody holding Amplefort will just get more Amplefort. It's elastic. So let's say that price of Amplefort doubled, and I had, let's say, bought initially 1,000 Amplefort. Well, in my account, without me doing anything else, I'll see like 2,000 Amplefort there. And so what that's going to do is cause people to say, oh, you know what? I got plenty of Amplefort. Amplefort price is more than $1. It's probably going to come down. Let me sell some of my Amplefort. So I sell my Amplefort. That actually does cause the price to come down. And then it gets back to, the $1 price. Now, if it gets below $1, my supply that I have in my account also decreases. The 1,000 Amplefort that I had bought, let's say if the price dropped down 50%, now Amplefort is trading at 50 cents. Well, I might see my supply shrink down to 500 Amplefort. And that's going to prevent people from selling their Amplefort. And if the price is below $1, the other people that don't have Amplefort are going to say like, hey, let me buy this up because, eventually this will come back to $1 and they'll start buying it. And that will actually cause the price to go up. And, so they can make some money by buying it when it's low, below $1. And then, selling it when it's $1. And, that's another way of creating a stable coin. Now with Shardeum, I don't think we want to make that a stable coin because as you can see, there's all these, schemes and mechanisms that we have to have behind a stable coin to make it stable, right? Like either back it with, a stable collateral or back it with, or over collateralize it, or do an elastic supply kind of thing and so forth. So with Shardeum, we just want to have like 508 million Shardeum, right, out there. I mean, like it's not all going to be in circulation. It's going to eventually reach a level like that in, like maybe 20 to 30 years. And I think that's good from a point of view, like, because people are very familiar with that idea of a fixed supply coin.
Okay.
And that also helps, create some appreciation for the people that supported the project early on, right?
Right.
and so we kind of do want the price to go up as the project becomes more popular and gains traction and so forth. Now, here's the problem. What does happen though is that, and I can see why you might have been thinking about having Shardium be a stable coin, is that as the price of Shardium goes up, then the gas fees will tend to go up, right? So if we always say like, okay, you're going to pay, like 5 gwei of Shardium for your transaction cost, then if the price of Shardium goes up, then your transaction costs relative to stable coins, or currencies like USD or rupees, it's going to start to go up in price. So what might have been like, half a cent for the transaction fee will now start to become like 5 cents, and then, 50 cents and $5, as the price keeps going up. So that is an issue, and that's something that Nishal and I have discussed. How to do that, and it's it's not completely finalized or hashed out. But what we're thinking about doing is having what we call like a stability factor, so that even though we basically want people to say like pay 5 gwei for sending a transaction, but if the price of Shardium goes up, then that the stability factor will change from 1 to like something smaller than 1, right? Like if the Shardium price doubled, that stability factor might become 0.5.
Right.
And so the real gwei that you pay in Shardium, the real transaction fee, would be half as much, right? So and that will help to make sure that the transaction fees stay constant, and that stability factor would be something that's adjustable by the network over time. And one thing we could do is think about the nodes trying to adjust that factor, but to do that we would need oracles. The other thing you could do is have that be something that's controlled by a DAO, where there's like human involvement and people vote and say, oh, you know what, price of Shardium is going up. I think we need to, like somebody would put up a proposal saying the stability factor should be reduced, and then people would vote on it and it gets reduced, right? So that way, we don't have to worry about oracles, because oracles come with their own problems, right? Because then people could try to play with the price of Shardium and fool the oracles and things like that. But having like a DAO would be a little bit more safer, but it could be slower, right? So there's trade-offs with this, but so this is one of the things that we're thinking about in order to keep the gas prices constant.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, sir. I was, excuse me. Even I was also thinking about that oracle when you were saying about how in stablecoin, because I am into 3-to-1 games, and I have seen oracles being used for the governance token. But I was curious that since Web3 is all about decentralization and people owning the part of the network, so like shouldn't like what you are saying, shouldn't Shardium be also like a governance token, like where people are actually owning, like how it's similar as Matic?
Yeah, definitely. And we do have long-term plan is eventually to have a DAO, and the foundation would have less and less of an impact, and and then the DAO would start picking up, and then the DAO eventually could basically operate the network, right? So yeah, that's the long-term plan, and I think that's the right way to do things, because that's the only way things become decentralized. I mean, every project, even a decentralized project, initially starts out centralized, but then over time, the goal should be to make it more and more decentralized, right? I mean, even if you look at Bitcoin, at one point it was very centralized, like Satoshi was writing all the codes, right? All the decisions he made, right? Like nobody had any say on the 21 million coins, right? That was not a community decision. It was just Satoshi that just decided that. The fact that the blocks would be 10 minute, block time. I mean, that was just a Satoshi decision, and people just stuck with it. So, yeah, so things start out being very decentralized, but the goals should be to become more and more centralized as time goes on, or decentralized as time goes on. Yeah.
Also, sir, I was curious. I mean, for every Web3 project or a blockchain, community plays a very major role, right? And Shardeum has portrayed that it's grown out of India and one of the Indians' own blockchain, right? So, what's your plan or your roadmap to build those micro communities, or like reach out to those micro communities? Because being in this Web3 space, I have also learned that community does plays a lot of a huge role actually. So what's your way to go for the community, like bringing the community and actually getting the community onboarded into Shardium?
Yeah, I mean, so that's really something that's more on Nishal's side, because when we partnered up, we decided that, okay, I'll handle the tech part, and you handle the community side, right? So I really can't comment too much about that, but I do want to kind of make clear that even though this project is being started and founded by two Indians, and we do have a lot of Indians in our community and so forth, long term, you have to realize this is just a global project, right? So we can't just be like, oh, this is just India only. I mean, that doesn't make sense, right? I mean, look at Polygon, right? That was started by a group of guys from India, and but now it's a global project. Like everybody's using it, right? So like I said, like things kind of start out centralized, or with a specific community that initially builds it or creates it. But as time goes on, it will grow, and just keep that in mind. 5 years down the line, this is not going to look like it's an India project anymore. You know what I mean? There's going to be like global adoption, and there'll be lots of different communities using it and so forth. But I think one of the things that Nishal kind of likes people to keep in mind is that we want to build Shardium so that the cost of doing transactions on there can be afforded even by people in countries like India, right? So if the transaction costs are like 50 cents or $5 or whatever, people are going to be like, hey, I can't really use this network. It's too expensive. But if we keep our, transaction costs like really, really low, then even, people that are, in countries like India or Africa or, various other countries where, there's a lot of people who I think will benefit from being able to use these smart contract platforms. But if the fees are too high, they won't be able to. So that's, I think, Nishal's vision in trying to keep the cost low for using Shardium.
Yes, sir, I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
In announcement channel, I found POS, proof of stake, and proof of quorum. pivot queue.
Mm-hmm.
What is the advantage of pivot queue over POS?
They're actually used in different parts, but they complement each other actually. So, okay, so proof of quorum basically means that we now have some way to prove that a majority of the participants that were doing consensus have, accepted some outcome, right? Like right now there's, like 7 people here in this, chat session. And if we were to say, okay, let's take a vote on some issue, right? And we put up the issue and we all vote. If some of us didn't vote or some of us voted the other way, but let's say, 7 or out of the 7 people, let's say 4 people voted yes for that issue. Now, in the digital world, we can use digital signatures and sign, a transaction and send it to everybody else so that everybody knows how we voted. So I would start receiving these transactions, coming from, Ajay and Sabu and everybody else, and I would collect those. And once I've seen that, at least 4 people have voted the same way, I now can create a receipt to prove to anybody else what the outcome was, right? So that's basically proof of quorum. So when we have, a majority voting the same way, that's a quorum. And when we create a receipt with that by, taking all these votes, that is the proof. So in Shardis, originally in Shardis, and then this is gonna translate into Shardeum. The transactions that come into the network, we don't group them into blocks and then do consensus at the block level, right? Instead, we do consensus on each transaction as it comes in. And there's benefits to doing that once you start sharding your network. If your network is not sharded, there's no benefit to doing that. It's actually slower to do it that way if your network is not sharded. So, that's why we chose to use proof of quorum. Now, the proof of stake part, that's when we have, the validators joining the network. We want these validators to have a stake in, properly processing the transactions and not misbehaving, right? Imagine if a validator voted yes and no on the same issue, right? So we have like 7 people here. Let's say 3 people voted yes, 3 people voted no, but this one guy, he votes yes and no. What's going to happen? Like everybody's going to get confused. No, that's not what's going to happen, because with digital signatures, we have now a proof to show that this guy voted both ways, right? And so we can use that as proof to slash him, right? And so he gets kicked out of the network, he loses his stake, and that makes it harder for him to come back and do the same thing again, right? So that's where the proof of stake comes in.
Yeah.
So they complement each other, it's not one or the other. We have both of these going on.
Sir, will the validators be the ones who will be like actually signing those transactions? I mean, if that happens, I mean, people need to be always active in the network during the transactions. I mean, what would you say? I mean, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Validators are expected to be nodes that are being active and participating in the network. I mean, there's a ton of processing that has to happen, and these validators, since they're not doing any kind of proof of work, and that's sucking up their CPUs, they have a lot of compute power available to process lots of transactions. So yeah.
But they need to be very fast, right? Because when we scale up, I mean, when Shardium scales up, because with the number of transactions that will be happening, then don't you think that it would be a bit? I mean, if somebody slows down, what do you think? Because if somebody starts slowing down, then the transaction might also get delayed, or something like that might happen.
Right. So that's one of the nice things about sharding, is that when we shard a network. Okay, so you guys are familiar with your like Ethereum addresses, right? So your Ethereum address, it falls into an address space. The address space, starts at, like, let's say 000 and goes all the way up to FFFFF, right? And your address happens to be at some point in that space. Now, when you don't have any sharding, then every node is holding all the accounts, right? Is holding that in its local database. When you do have sharding, what happens is that all the nodes don't have to hold all of the accounts. So like some nodes, like let's say you have 10 shards, then each node would be holding like 1/10 of the addresses. And as you add more nodes and you get more shards, each node would be holding even less and less, of the address space. And so when a transaction comes into the network, we now only have to route that transaction to the nodes that hold the addresses that transaction deals with. So if it's a transaction like it only is operating on one contract, and like let's say you're just changing some value in one contract, that only needs to go to one shard, right? So the nodes there will process the transaction, do consensus on it. Once we have a proof of quorum, the nodes will just go ahead and update the new state. If let's say you're doing a coin transfer and you're sending coins from A to B, that transaction would need to go to two different shards. If A is in one shard, B is in another shard, then those nodes